typically what we do the first meeting is just sort of go around the table. We can do anything anybody wants and ask questions for information without staking out positions for or against pieces of the budget. But you can say or do anything you want. Parker's already said, I'm not supporting this, and this, but I'm sorry. But
Couldn't get the manager, so I had to vent to somebody.
But if so, first of all, let me ask the manager if he wants to make any updates, any numbers that you want adjusted for us, for our purposes.
Sure. Mayor, members of council, what we typically do after we have provided the proposed budget to you, we continue to scrub revenue, scrub expenditures. There's one item, while we do not have a definitive number for you, we do believe that the earlier projections that we had for the healthcare, we believe that it's going to be a little bit less than the earlier projections. Without going into much detail, as we switch over to the city administered program, there were 3 months at the tail end of the current healthcare program that we had to assume something like a 5% increase. We believe that that is going to be closer to zero, closer to flat. That's a letter that we received today. It's not significant savings. We're not talking millions, but it is something that would help both the city and schools as it relates to the healthcare costs. So that's the update that we have at this time.
Also, the Housing Authority? City, schools, NRHA?
Oh, yes, in the Housing Authority, yes. Everybody that's in the consortium.
Okay, you'll get us a number later, what you think the
That
savings.
also drops the school's cost, you're saying?
That's exactly right.
How much?
We don't know yet.
Right now, I mean, this is real-time information. We are crunching the numbers. It could be a few $100,000.
All right, Andy just left. Barkley, do you have any, you want to begin with the first question?
Let me ask you one thing, and I don't know if it's really a budget issue, but you know, when we did the healthcare audit,
Yes.
did we do that system-wide Housing Authority schools? Because they were,
Yes.
you know, in this shared services, to bring up to date, they, you know, they said, hey, you need to go see, we're insuring dogs and second cousins. And how did that?
Sure. I can only speak to the savings related to the city. So after going through a process of this healthcare audit, and basically the way I view things is you've just declared up front, we did not have a process in place that validated the individuals in the family as related to healthcare. So we went back in time and asked everybody who's under the healthcare plan to ensure that the people that are being covered are actually either the spouse or the dependent. So we did that, and for every new employee, they have to verify that going in. It's been a while since I looked at the numbers, but there was a couple $100,000 savings for just the
People that were
city.
being covered, it shouldn't have been.
Right, exactly. Some of it was an amnesty. So in some cases, people changed coverage. In some cases, people didn't ask for coverage past the audit date. So I'm not suggesting that people were dishonest or anything of that nature, but we had a savings because not everybody.
Some of them weren't.
Well, we had some people come out of the program,
Right.
and there was a savings just for the city. I think it was almost $200,000.
We did that at the schools
Yes.
and at the housing. authority.
Yes, so I'm not sure what the savings would have been for the
That
school
right there
system.
came out of the shared services.
That's-
That's what Dollar Tree
That's right.
recommended. They saved millions of dollars.
And you actually mentioned Dollar Tree. I'll say at this point, they've been a great partner, not just in terms of the shared services, but actually one of their staff members came over to help us out with the whole conversion into a city administered program. It's been a very good partnership.
Okay. Are we asking specifics now? I mean,
Whatever you want to,
All right,
we
Ward's
just want
Corner, for instance. know,
Are you doing one per council member and going around?
I'm really going to try to limit them to 4 or 5 minutes.
Okay,
and then
gotcha.
we'll go
Just
around.
want to know what the ground rules
You know,
were.
Ward's Corner, we're down to $750 for the year, and I know, and plus $500 for the traffic signal. And I know we've been more, it projects out, when you look on wherever, you project nothing for the year. So I mean, that, is it, you know, one, I got an issue with this year, but I also have an issue with the years out. I don't want, is that, are you saying that after this year, that we're not gonna put any money in Ward 12?
Yeah, a couple of things, yes, but could I at least give you some background on this? We provided you with a few pages, which we may even have on the screen, that provide some input as it relates to our capital
Just
improvement
in
plan.
today's handout?
Yeah, it was just handed out, I think, yes, Winter handed it out. And then I promise you, I'll get to your issue. I started off by saying yes, but I think it's very important to just use a little background. The capital improvement plan that we propose to you today, with the exception of about $16 million of additional projects net in 2014, it's the same plan that you approved last year. So in other words, it's the current year with FY13, then there's FY14, 15, 16, and 17. That's what you approved last May. What you approved last May had no money included for the neighborhood plans in years 14, 15, 16, 17. So this is not new. And one of the reasons that occurred is that if you go to just the slide 3 in the handout that we provided to you, and I don't think I did a good job last week, but what occurred with this capital improvement plan is that the economy took over. If you go back to those 4 years of residential declines in the in terms of real estate, it basically was the equivalent of not just $18.5 million in lost revenue, but it took about $1 billion of assessed value out of the system. So if you go back to 2003, we can easily say we doubled, but yes. So what occurred was that if we just had normal growth in real estate assessed values, we would have capacity in the CIP in the out years. When we talk about these self-imposed limitations, assessed value is the one that's hurting us. And when we lose that much in terms of assessed value, it impacts our ability, our affordability. So we try to produce for you a CIP that stays within those limits. If you go to just page 6, the last page, and I don't think we did this in 2013 budget, we talked about it, but now I want to show you. You know, basically those two limitations that we have, and I don't know if they're great, okay. It's the net debt as the percent of our taxable real estate, and the other one is the net debt as a percent of our overall budget. While we're within those targets in 2014, in 2015, I'm telling you, we're blowing through it. So in order for us to, first of all, in 2015, we have to do some things to get ourselves below that target. So even with the capital improvement plan that we produced last Tuesday, it's not sustainable. So I'm answering your question by giving you a little bit of backdrop that last year we didn't put money in for the neighborhood plans in the out 4 years. And so we moved to 14. We actually put money in. We put money in 14 even though we didn't have it. So we didn't put money in 15, 16, 17, and 18 because I'm through these targets. And I'm through these targets for a number of years. We've not been in this place before. I get back within these targets by 2018, but I'm not sure if that's good enough. So we just put a capital improvement plan before you that is difficult to begin with, but we just knew if we put funding in for the neighborhood plans for all 5 years CIP, that I would have problems defending that from a rating agency perspective.
Okay, well then this government plaza,
Yes.
$4 million, why do we have to pull that trigger?
It's a part, and I'm going to give it my best shot, and Ron and John can back me up on this.
You just asked one too many questions. All
I-
right, so we're going to go to Terry next, but you go ahead.
All right, so
And I
my
have-
first question is, why do we have to pull the trigger on the $4 million
Me
in the
too,
government
that's one of
plaza?
mine.
Yeah, where is that?
My
Where'd that come up?
understanding, my understanding when we bid this out, it was not an addendum, but it was a option, an alternate. That we had 4 years to decide whether we were gonna do it at a fixed price. Or, you know, by the time they finished, and so we had time to think about it if the economy got better.
No, it's a part of the overall package that we bid out
I
last year.
understand, but it was an alternate.
but it has to be awarded before substantial completion of phase one.
Okay, well, when is that?
That's in the spring of 2014.
Can I put some numbers real quick, because Terry, this is a question. In fiscal year 2012, we said it would be $3.2 million. That's what we voted on in 2012. Then last year, we approved $500,000 for design and the $4 million was in last year's budget. It was in there. But what did the design say was needed? And I know you said there's demolition costs in there. So how much is the demolition cost, and what are the designs? What does that give us for $4 million after we spent $500,000 on designing it?
Sure.
Does that help,
It
Barkley?
was designed as part of the original bid package.
Yes.
Whenever that
But we
was.
allocated $500,000 last year for design of that. So we spent already $500,000 on it.
Right, but I think that went in when it went out to bid, and this was a bid, in layman's terms, it was a base bid for phase one, and then a base bid for phase two, and this was an alternate that we could accept by when, next spring?
For substantial completion of phase one.
Are they on?
Phase 2A, it's part
Let
of
me
it.
ask you this, are they on schedule to have substantial completion by next May?
Yes. For phase one.
We could drag that out, can't we? No, but I know we probably got a good price on it and whatever, but if we're talking about limitations and cutting short the neighborhoods and what have you, I mean, it seems to me that I'd like, it's something that we could back off.
I would just add to that, even if you could slide it into 2015.
If we decided to, if things had an upturn, I'm not saying we make a decision right now that we're gonna do it in 2015, but I'd rather, hopefully real estate values turn or something good happens, I don't know.
Right. The only thing that helps in this situation is taking something out. Sliding it is not going to help our overall 5-year CIP.
I'm talking about sliding the option to do it or not do it. I'm not talking about making a firm decision that we're gonna do it and say we're just gonna push it back a year. I'm saying that maybe with what we got going on, you can't do it.
How much is the demolition estimated for that?
The demolition is about 400,000, about 400,000.
So at a minimum, you would want to pay for the demolition of the courthouse.
Is that part of the
That's
courthouse plaza or not, or is this part of the?
When I asked about this, I was told that demolition money's in that.
That's just the demolition of the building. That does not include the site improvements,
Right.
or the cutoff of the utilities. that
Which
are
is all in the 4 million for
Correct.
the plaza?
Yes.
Can we get a breakdown on what
Yeah.
that comprises?
Can we get, how about next time we talk, we have a full presentation?
Right, because I mean, it might be you could tear down the buildings and put a nice grassy knoll out there and plant a few trees and have, and then come back. I mean, if I'm hearing it, we're gonna be,
But these are self-imposed limitations too. Like, we've
well, I
never-
understand that, but I mean,
Okay, well,
we probably disagree on that.
maybe there's some
Paul, but
savings there, and maybe we can, but let's
Let's
take.
see what,
Okay,
if we gotta tear the courthouse down, if you topsoil it and seed it and plant it, then we can get some money into,
but I'm, in there somewhere, I'm sure, is sidewalks just to get into the building, I mean,
Sidewalks, an extension of Main
that's
Street.
what I wanna know. I mean,
Yeah.
okay, so you spend $1 million
and you defer the other, okay.
Or defer to make a decision.
A
when
little
we-
grass seed for a while. Isn't a bad idea.
I'll donate
You
some
want me to
grass seed.
stop or we,
No, I want to go to Terry, then we're
You can
gonna,
donate some grass seed too, Barkley.
Terry.
I
Okay.
can't, I would, but I can't do business with the city.
First, Marcus, I would like to tell you that I was very impressed with the detail of this. I didn't understand it all, but I was very impressed by it. And I was very impressed that you related everything back to our goals and our vision. And I was very impressed that you took the time to do that, because a lot of budgets I've seen have never gone to that length. So I really would like to thank you for trying to always keep that in mind, that everything we did related back to the goals that we as a city had. My number one concern is about education, but I think I'm going to delay talking about that right now because I think there's some moving numbers out there that I need to get before I get back to that. So let's just start basic here. And
You only
I
get one
am-
now, don't go over.
Okay, real quick. I am really concerned about the amount of delinquent taxes that are up. I mean, real estate
What page is
was,
that, Terry?
this is page 61. And for delinquent properties is 7 million for real property taxes. But for personal property, a third of the current, 33 million is current and 10 million is delinquent. I mean, does that mimic what other cities see in delinquency? Are we above the pale on that? That just seemed an inordinate amount of delinquency and what you would think would maybe be some quick money we could do.
Sure.
It's too bad Mr. Burford didn't.
We can get you information on the city by city. I think that the biggest concern should be how well are we collecting taxes, whether it's current or delinquent.
Right.
So if there were $10 million out there and we're only collecting 5, then that's a big problem. So the question becomes, if we are very aggressive on collecting these, then that's a good thing. So what we'll do is get you some city by city comparisons. I will say that other cities have done certain things like amnesty programs in order to collect more taxes. In my last year in Richmond, we did something similar there. So if the question is, how can we ensure that we are collecting taxes, whether it's current or delinquent?
Or are there things
As
we
best we
can do
could.
to lessen this delinquency?
Right, okay.
On page-
I just want to add on the you talk personal property, that's car tax, right? That's what you're referring to.
Well, it could be a lot of things.
It's one of the personal property
Yeah,
taxes.
that's one of them,
Because
yeah.
I know on the personal property, if you don't pay that, they tag your registration. I mean, that's one of the methods. They tag your registration.
Right.
So you can't register your vehicle, update your, you really can't do anything at DMV without paying your car tax.
DMV stops, yes.
Yeah, they absolutely, so it could be some of the transient stuff that we see. Just to throw it out there, it could be some of the transient stuff that we see with military, being a military town.
On page 244, when we're looking at the consortium, and there's a comment at the top of the page that says that the consortium had received support in the past from the Public Amenities Fund, and now beginning in 2014, full support is provided through the general fund. Tell me about that.
Sure. At least 1 year, and it may have been 2010, there were funds provided to the consortium members through the Public Amenities Fund. So it's out there, for public consumption in one of our budget books. Even over the course of the last couple of years, there used to be what we call TOPS grants. And those TOPS grants, for the most part, went to consortium members, whether it's Visit Norfolk or Fest Events or the Symphony. In some cases, it went to other entities like WHRO. This budget, there are no dollars associated with either the TOPS grant, which was a couple of years ago that we stopped doing the TOPS grant, or the equivalent of the TOPS grant, which used to be about $500,000 for the consortium. So the funds related to the consortium are what they've been in the past, either from the general fund, and there's some, at least almost $1 million associated with a $1 bed tax. So that's the consortium.
So within this, so there's $200,000 for Visit Norfolk from Public Amenities. Am I right?
There shouldn't be anything from public amenities.
I guess what I'm saying is, so why isn't there money being spent on these from public amenities?
Because we don't have it.
When we set up the consortium first time, we had about $1 million from public amenities going towards it. In 2013, we had 250. In 2014, we no longer have any public amenities funds going towards it.
I know, that's why I'm asking why that is.
Well, I think you're asking. a
Is it
different
because we don't have it? That's what I want you to tell me, yes or
No.
no. Is that why, or?
No, these entities, before there was ever a consortium, received general fund dollars, period. And they would get general fund dollars, so let's say it's Botanical Gardens. The garden. They would get some money from the general fund, they would get some money from their own operations, fundraising, what have you. And then over and above that, sometimes they could apply for this thing called a TOPS grant, which would come out of the Public Amenities Fund. So these entities have always received general fund dollars. Over time, we have used less money from the Public Amenities Fund because the TOPS grant went away, about $500,000. And so now we're back to where we've always been, and that's general fund support.
Can I make, back in 2010, there was severe pressure on the budget just to fund, everyday things. And one of the ways, instead of cutting all of these entities dramatically because we couldn't afford them, one of the ways that we continued to keep them going was to go to the Public Amenities Fund on a just sort of a short-term basis, as I recall. And we just didn't have the revenue. I mean, there was no way we could fund the Chrysler Museum at where we wanted to fund it unless we went to the Public Amenities Fund. So we were able to keep the arts organizations going out of the Public Amenities Fund, which is just for 1 year, which is an aberration. We knew what we were doing when we got into it. We decided that was not a good use of the money. So they were always paid for by the general fund, and now we're back there again. Okay, Angela, what we're doing is just asking questions.
One of my questions comes
Making
with
statements.
the public arts funding, the 1%. I could have missed it because I've got finals and projects, so my brain is mush right now. But is that here? Did I it somewhere that I missed the 1%? Because I got a couple of emails that said it wasn't there, and we have all these
1% for what,
public art, yeah, public art funding.
It's about 500,000.
No,
Yeah.
it's not, and and forgive me, but I think it's important to go back a little bit. We started off with this 1% for public art to really build up the fund. So there were projects that we, maybe as early as 2005, applied to in order to really get some critical mass as it related to building up a fund so we could have public art. Then over time, it became almost ad hoc. To what extent could you afford to set aside funds for public art? So no, there aren't any funds set aside for public art in 2014. There weren't any funds set aside for public art in 2013 either. And I think in 2013 it may have been $250,000. It wasn't as if you could take 1% of the entire CIP and set it aside. Over time, it had become an amount that kind of worked out in terms of what we had available. So given some of the constraints, we followed the 2013, did not provide additional funds for public art.
Do we see in next year's budget that there will be an opportunity to fund? Because we do have projects, and we do have things come, the public art will be displayed on, plus we have the new arts district, and, I think those two kind of go together to, make sure there's money there for artists and things like that to have the opportunity to display their public art.
And I'm not sure what balances are available in public art. We could get that information to you. I'm not sure if everything has been allocated. I guess it has been.
Because I asked the question because some people who are close to me called me too about public art. There's about $230,000 to $239,000 that they haven't even spent that they have. And there's about $1.6 million about $1.6 million that they've allocated but they haven't spent to different projects. I asked for a listing of what those might be so everybody can have that because, I'm a big fan of public art. I've actually urged the council to adopt the Public Arts Commission and the ordinance, but they have money that they haven't spent. So we ought to take a look at that.
Well,
So we
I
all know.
really didn't understand our purpose to be that. I thought our purpose was, this was a policy that we would have for, ongoing, that just because money wasn't used up meant we stopped it, because we had plenty of opportunities to have different projects. And I didn't think it was, let's charge it for a little while, and then if it gets built up, we won't charge it anymore. I think this is absolutely a turnaround from what we had agreed to. And I don't think we can say that just because it's not used up, then we're not gonna do it anymore. Now, I understand, I truly understand the issue that if you can't do it, but I think we ought to be, maybe we ought to say that, then. We had a policy, this is what we wanted to do, and I don't know. But did you all understand the policy to be anything other than this is
That's what I
what we
read.
would do, 1% from now on?
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I
It
will
was
say
always
this.
sort of subject to the budgetary concerns, but I think in the statute, in the ordinance, it says that for public buildings over a certain amount of money, we would commit like 1% of that. We would add an additional 1% in it for public art. And they've done a lot of really good stuff. I mean, that's for sure.
And I know that people are planning on things that, on these new projects that we're building. So there's certainly plans ongoing to expend that money that's left and new monies. I actually thought we were kind of doing it that if you build a new school, you took 1% of that to put some art there. And if you build a new courthouse, you did similarly. And,
That's the way it's
so-
set up.
yeah,
Because there's public art, I believe, scheduled for the Berkeley, the pool,
sure,
the
yeah,
aquatic center, and
I think
then,
that's, I'm told that's a great piece of art, and I think they've already
Yeah.
got that funded.
right.
so, anyway. And
I mean,
I've
even
got-
if you decided that we can't afford it, then maybe 1% is too much. But I still like the concept of saying we believe in this and that a certain percentage of our new buildings needs to be allocated toward that. I agree
There's a
with Paul.
discipline there to it, I agree with you.
It's a huge attraction, I think, in addition to a city, and shows vibrancy. And Angela's right, if we're going to really believe in this as an arts district and things, then I think we ought to walk the walk, walk the talk, whatever that is. I don't know.
And I have comments for later on the budget as it regards to the schools.
What's the first?
But for right now,
Don't
I'll
say
just say, you know, I appreciate you going through with the things that you went through in our budget presentation regarding our schools. But half the money, in my opinion, is not enough. It's just not enough.
What did you just say?
I said half the money is not enough
For the school?
for the schools.
Few questions about city employee salaries. How much would it cost additionally to fully fund the 2% starting in July for city employees?
Sure, I think it's about $1.8 million just for the half the year, so you multiply it by 2, so about $1.8 million.
Okay. And I believe that the state provided 2% for constitutional officers. Is that correct?
Yes, but however, the way that, and I think I have this correct, some years ago, the constitutional officers got on the city's pay plan. So in other words, if we were to give a 3% salary increase, they would benefit from the 3% salary increase. I meant to supplement that. So what happens is if the state gave 0 and the city gave 3%, then the city would bear the cost of the entire salary increase for everybody. So by moving away from being locked with the state and moving to the locality, there was some benefit. So the way this would work is that we'll get that money, period, from the state. It would help us in terms of whatever salary increase that we would have. And the other piece that's pretty important is while this may not be universal, we provide a supplement. So even though the state provides so much money for, let's say, a sheriff's deputy, the city on top of that provides some money, which is 100% us. So it's not this clean.
It's the same as the schools.
Right, it's not this clean piece where the state funds 100% of the salaries for the constitutional officers.
And when you were looking at doing salary increases, and you guys have heard this from me before, so this is not new. I do not believe in giving a blanket 2% raise to everybody. I believe that people who make more money should get less and work their way down, and there's going to be people who disagree with me. I think people who make less should get more. I think that builds the middle class up. So my concern is what I hear from employees from all over the city is that we still have not looked at our steps and making adjustments and steps, and that it would be more appropriate to look at spending the money that's on raises instead of giving everybody a 2% raise starting in January, that you look at doing a pay study and look at closing the gap at some of those steps. This is the same criticism I have of the school system as well. I don't think that everybody should just get a blanket 2%. I believe some people might need to get a 6% raise to catch them up on their steps so you can have attractive entry-level salaries. Because as employees retire, somebody's got to replace them, and we want to be able to recruit. And I'm just, we keep on doing this 2%, and we're not getting anywhere. There's people that are on steps that have been there for 6, 7, 8 years, and they're ready to move up, and that means more for them when they go for retirement as well.
No,
So I'm just wondering if you guys are looking at really doing a comprehensive study on the steps.
Sure.
Now, hold on, before you answer that, the other argument to that on the people who make more money is also that they haven't gotten, everybody's been stuck without a raise. So some of those people who maybe make 150, if you gave them a 6% raise, I mean, if we're gonna look at steps on everybody, are we looking at steps on everybody, not just people below a certain pay range?
Absolutely. But there is a difference with somebody who makes $150,000 a year and somebody who makes $40,000 a year.
Oh,
And they're,
absolutely. But those people also, well, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, I agree. To answer your question, I think each year at the end of the budget presentation, there's a last sheet that talks about what we're going to examine in the next year. This last page of my presentation last Tuesday was basically just that, personnel. There are many issues that are out there surrounding personnel, and we believe we shouldn't just take a piecemeal approach, but let's go in and tackle it. I will tell you, I remember the first year when all we could do were bonuses because it was one time. We didn't give bonuses to what I call the senior executive team, so we went without. The second year, the steps, for the most part, it's something that I hear a lot from public safety. And to put this in perspective, when we went 4 years without salary increases, you had individuals who may have been on step 5, and let's say step 2, step 4, and then someone comes in and they go 4 years without getting a step, and you hire somebody who's coming in at even step 4. So the longevity kind of goes out the window. The reason the last 2 years we went with the general wage increase is that we believe that we know that it impacts everybody. So there are steps. So somebody who's at step 20, if we just did a step increase, would get nothing. But when you do a general wage increase, everybody benefits. So we thought that from a fairness perspective, it's the best way to do a general wage increase. A step is worth about 2.5%. The general wage increase for this one is worth 2%. We can give you a history. In some cases, you would have a step of 2.5 and a general wage increase of 3. So you would walk home with 5.5% salary increase. Again, it's a little bit different. We believe that moving forward, if you take a comprehensive look, maybe even at the public safety, folks have asked me, and I agree, I think we should study this. The state last year looked at the retirement system and basically said for all employees, the employees would now make the 5% contribution as opposed to the state making the 5% contribution. So the state gave the money to the employee, and the employee just put it in retirement, but the impact is when they retired, they had a 5% bump up. In 2010, all our new employees are required to put 5% in, but anybody before 2010 doesn't. So if we just gave everybody that same 5%, we could go to those employees that were hired before October 2010. We could take the 5% that the city gives on their behalf to retirement, give it to them, for them to make the contribution. That's equivalent of giving them 2 steps.
Right.
So there are things that we can do to start to address some of those.
And I am concerned about entry-level positions and not being able to, it's the same thing with teaching, that, you're trying to be competitive and trying to attract new employees, and you can't do it if your salary is well below other municipalities. And, whether it's police, fire, or, any city department, I think that it's something that we really need to look at with that. I just have one other quick question.
Before you
Yeah.
get but can we have something on the steps, the whole step? I hear it, I hear people talk about it, but I don't completely understand what that all.
And you gave us something, it might even been at the retreat, that kind of laid out all the steps and what you were looking at with performance.
Okay, I'll go back to my.
Yeah,
Okay, we get
um,
you.
I'll go back to my.
But, and I know you guys were gonna address it, I was just wondering.
Okay.
Just a quick question, I know you said that in our budgets everything that was in CIP we voted on last year. There was one little thing that I noticed with the USS Wisconsin that in fiscal year 2013, we allocated 500,000, and in 14, we were recommending 250, but in your budget this year, it says 750, so we've increased it by 500,000. What happened?
Right, so there's about a little over $16 million in additional spending. Some of that is the neighborhood plans that I talked about beforehand. Some of that is we moved up the replacement of the firehouse. It was in the out years. We moved that up. So I can give you a list of all of the adds and subtractions. One of the things with the USS Wisconsin, this is a great discussion to have, is back to this concept of maintenance. It is a facility, it's an asset that we had that was turned over to us. And we have to maintain it. And they're doing a study this year, and they've given us information about other jurisdictions that have these ships. And in some cases, it was a couple of $1 million to maintain them. In some cases, there were numbers that are in the tens of millions of dollars. This study is going to tell us what we should expect to do in terms of maintenance. We believe that that initial number is close to $750,000 a year and not the $250,000. So again, if this is maintaining an asset, and if this is trying to show that bare minimum that we need just to maintain what we have in the CIP, we thought it's better to just show it in all 5 years of the CIP. So this is not bells and whistles, not exhibits. This is making sure that the thing stays afloat.
Have we estimated, are we getting the return back from attendance and fees being collected from Nauticus to continue maintaining this? Are we,
Sure.
In other words,
is the
is it paying for
marketing, is it
itself?
paying for itself? Are we out there marketing this the way that we're supposed to in order to recoup the money that's being spent on it?
Yeah,
And
that-
what is the foundation contributing to? There's people out there supposedly collecting money to maintain
Right.
this too.
Right, we can give that to you also as part of information. There's two pieces. It's what the city makes in terms of a contribution, and it is fundraising from the foundation. This is maybe too elementary, but I almost look at this somewhat like a rec center. There are going to be some assets that we have that don't make money.
And it's not an answer.
Well, there are going to be some facilities that we have that do not make money. I can assure you that the Nauticus is not, it's grammatically correct, it isn't self-sufficient, because if it were self-sufficient, we would not have brought it into the general fund last year. It was an accounting rule that said if you contribute more than 50% to an entity, it's yours. Put it as part of the general fund. So I can tell you with certainty that there's not enough just in admissions ticket sales that to make it self-sufficient. But you brought the good question up. Marketing is something that they have been reviewing for a while. The strategic plan. I went to a meeting where they said you have to make sure you understand your target audience, and the target this is the members of the foundation, and the target audience is my wife Jill. In some cases it's just make sure that you're trying to make sure that you have parents bringing their children to some of the exhibits. So that it's been a very good process, a thoughtful process that they're coming to the end of that now.
Just a couple of comments. When you start talking about a compensation plan for a system that has 4,500, 5,000 employees, Tommy, we've tried to fool with it several times over the years, and unless you can't do it on an ad hoc basis. You really have to have a foundation. The STEP plan was actually, as it was explained to me years ago, was something that cities, and not every city has a pay plan with the step plan. It was, when inflation was sort of rampant, this was a way for people to not only get cost of living increases, but also maintain their place within the fact that, well, that for people really getting paid for seniority and for experience, plus a cost of living on top of it. And so we were giving out 5.5%, 6% raises all the time. I mean, for years and years and years. And then we just had to done the, but it's a pretty complex thing between the steps and pay raises. That debate is going on for as long as we've had a plan that has that. And it just sort of seesaws back and forth. The Wisconsin thing is really worth talking about. I mean, if we were all take a trip over there and talk to this board, I mean, they are a big time board. And they do incredible amount of work for free. We got retired admirals over there who are, been all through the boat, telling us what we need to do to maintain it. We're actually ahead of the curve, and you can't pull it out of here. So, and it is. But in any event, it's really worth. I think you'd be proud of the work that goes on over there if Bill Kofer and those guys could come in here and talk to you about it. So.
No, I wasn't concerned about it. Are we marketing it though?
Yeah.
Are we getting the
Are we getting
return
enough
back?
bucks?
Yeah.
But there's a lot of stuff that goes on over there for free too. I mean, there are 300 military services a year on the boat. There's one or two a day where, and it continues to strengthen those ties that bind us with the military, which is, so.
All of our assets are not performing assets. You said something about not being assets. We have several non-performing assets. And that just happens to be a non-performing asset, but it just happens to be here. We can't throw it away.
Well, it becomes a quality of life issue. I mean, frankly, I think that when I remember when I came on council, it's like being on a church board or church vestry. You want to run. You come on with a philosophy when you run the city like you run a business, right? You run your own business, and there are times that that's the case that you can do that. But if you correlate it in reality, it's more like being on a church board or vestry, where you can't run a church like you run a business, and in reality, you can't run a city similar to how you run a corporation. There are parts of it that you can, but I think as a whole, as the board that runs it, we really can't. And there are going to be assets that are quality of life assets that are quality of life not only for our own citizens, but for visitors and tourists that make it a draw. I think that's one of them, as it is. Just like in any church, you have, let's say, the sexton or the old secretary that you want to go in and fire because she's underperforming, but you can't because the parishioners all get upset. And you have that at times when you're running a city. And so it's just, I think if we somehow correlate that and understand that you really can't run it like a company or the way you run your own business, at times you can, budgets, yes, and things like that, but there are things that you have to look at as a whole that you really can't just say, this is underperforming, we have to cut it. And so I get it. I have been in the Wisconsin. It is something that, and I do believe, and I don't mean in any way dealing with marketing, because it seems that we always go back to that. But I will tell you, we really do not do a good job in marketing our city. And I've said that, I think I've said this for the last 3 years. I had a client came in from Northern Virginia, and the first thing they noticed is they said, where's all the graffiti? We were told that you're a big city, and we are. We're the 77th largest in the United States. Where's all your graffiti? Where are all the bums hanging around on you? I go, it doesn't work that. We do have a compassionate way of, we hope that we handle things. I had to explain that. In fact, I drove them. I was so proud of it. I showed them the Kroc Center. I took them out to the New Union Mission. I took them out to the Salvation Army and showed these new buildings, new dormitories going up. They were shocked. They go, and the other thing they said is, your city is so clean. They were just blown away. So, we have, but we really don't. They were told to be careful in Norfolk. They were told to watch crime, and we all have our, every big city is going to have its problems, but we really do need to focus on who we are and the cultural aspects that we have in the city, the beaches that we have. They were shocked that our beach is public. They just couldn't understand it. That anybody can just go out there. It's a public beach in Norfolk. So I think that we really do need to begin more of a focus on that. I know we've talked about it. I know I've talked about it. I'm still not, and I know Visit Norfolk does what they can. I think that, maybe we need to get rid of this survey, get rid of the consultant ideas, and just understand that we really aren't marketing well. Hopefully, I will say this, and I'm going to go back to the vote that we had at the new conference center. I know that with Thompson coming in, I do expect that he will be marketing his own property, which in turn will market us. I do expect that when Waterside is done, I understand that a majority or a good portion of the 30-some million or 28 million is going into Waterside will be marketing Waterside, which in turn markets our entire city, hopefully. So we really need to get that together. I still don't think we're together on that. I don't know if I've said anything constructive, and I apologize if I haven't.
No, it was.
Need anything else?
No, as you know, Paul, I've been sick, so I really would like to pass and take more.
We're just asking questions, Paul.
I appreciate
Get
that.
some feedback on the budget.
Yeah, probably get deep into it, but there's a couple things that, but really, one of the things that glares out, there's nothing in for retirees this year? Okay, that's something that concerns not only me, but the retirees. Also, I know we have and always have, and it's good, put money in for EVMS. Do we give anything to Children's Hospital? Did I miss that, or is there nothing in there?
We did not add anything new, so no, sir, we don't.
Because, we do it to EVMS because the energy care that they do, that they give, and for years, Children's Hospital, has provided that service. So if I had to find some money to go back and, I like, Children's Hospital. In terms of Public Works, I was looking at the budget for Public Works and Boys Corner, which, needs that because of what they have going on. But there's some other areas that we just need to make sure that we pay attention to. Citywide, we need to watch, do our street markings. They are still, dreadfully undermarked. A lot of areas that need to be resurfaced, so we have to stretch that Public Works dollar around.
Mr. Riddick, before I forget, because you've said that several times, in the CDBG funding,
Okay.
we have about $350,000 that's set aside just for that purpose, which would be the markings, the intersections you had talked about.
Right.
Yes, sir. So we did set that aside.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll just hold that there for a second.
Okay, we're at 5 o'clock. We've set aside an hour, but we can take more if anybody's got another question.
We've got days set
We've
up.
got a couple of other work sessions. This was just for information. Okay, Terry, you got anything else you want?
I mean,
We'll just break for
I've
dinner.
got a lot, but we'll do it next time.
I do have one question. I've asked for this, and I'm hoping you can get it together. I've been in discussion for 2 years now about our boat tax. And I know that Virginia Beach is considering raising, I don't know if they are or not, but I've asked for how many boats are assessed in Norfolk and whether or not we can go to a sticker type, not an actual sticker, but a fee. Most of you might not know, but our marinas are well below where they should be. They're at 60% in some cases. And the amount of revenue that we lose off of maintenance and other things, dock fees, we're actually probably not getting back the money now with assessments. And I've asked for that. And I did receive today a new report from VIMS that shows the economic impact of residential boating. I do not own a boat. I don't have any plans of owning a boat because I can't afford one.
I gave one away.
But I think that one thing we need to look at is that our marinas and the economic impact that we've lost because we are not competing now with surrounding cities. And if we have the opportunity to now steal some of that back because Virginia Beach is considering raising theirs, I think what I've talked with boaters is that it's not necessarily, if there was a fee, that's fine, but we can set it at a size of the boat. So if your staff could work with the Commissioner of Revenue and get those numbers, I'd be interested in seeing how many boats are being assessed, what their, their assessment values are, and whether or not switching it to a fee structure would benefit us because we would get more boats back in the city to raise that revenue back up. And that's something that you have to work on, so that's why I wanted to email.
Marcus, one other thing, if you could get us some information. On page 6, you have a list of what Portsmouth, Virginia Beach, Suffolk, Richmond, and Hampton. Could you get us, just like Portsmouth, what their tax rate is? I think it's $1.26 or 27. And when they put a penny on, how much money they get, if you got that?
Yes.
Virginia Beach just went up 6 cents. I think you get $5 million every time they put a penny on. So Suffolk, they're contemplating going up another 6. I don't know what that takes them to, maybe $1.03 or something like that. But if you could just put that on one piece of paper, it may not make any difference to anybody, but we're always comparing ourselves to our other cities. I know, I talked to the mayor of Hampton, she says she didn't care. I mean, she cares, but I mean, as long as they got enough taxes to cut the grass, to fix the curbs, to do everything we needed to do, they didn't care where they ranked next to other people. We've always been at the high end of real estate taxes, I mean, at the very top. And if all of these raises go through, there will be, even with what we're contemplating, there will be at least 3, our Newport News, Hampton, Portsmouth, will be like 4th by a wide margin. And then the newer sister cities, which all got formed 50 years ago, Suffolk, Chesapeake, and the Beach, will be below ours, but, for good reasons. I mean, they're not even in our, they got whole different things. I mean, their landmass, Suffolk is as big as Los Angeles, for goodness sakes. So, but I mean, that'll give us some, I mean, everybody needs money. To do just around the table, what we're talking about, we need money. So we ought to have a little bit of perspective about where other people are, and then maybe that'll help us make some judgments about where we should be.
But I think the comparison should be with core cities.
Right.
And
I agree.
you can't make the comparison to a suburb
Or the beach.
when you're dealing with a core city that has the cultural amenities and the obligations that we have because of our demographic and our what we offer is totally different than what a bedroom community offers. And frankly, many of those really are bedroom communities.
Okay, if you could just make it a little plainer. Okay, well, why don't we
That's
break
how
for
we
dinner?
lost Virginia Beach.
That's how we lost Virginia.
Yeah, Duckworth said that,
Yeah, but turn
the
the world.
bedroom community,
Yeah.
came up.
Yep. Okay.
I think we've lost that. I remember I read that history fairly.
Worst move we ever
There
made.
was one judge who was sent down for that.